Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things, in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Hi, I'm Maddie Adams.
And I'm Liz Adams, and you're listening to Courageously Kind, a show dedicated to inspiring courage and spreading kindness.
Our hope is that these conversations spark conversations of your own, so we all can find the courage to be kind. We had the honor of chatting with Kristina, who is the founder of YOO MEE Design Studio, but what she offers is so much more than just beautiful design. Kristina is truly someone who is just so grounded in love and intention and kindness, and that totally comes across through her work and her website, but also the other services she offers. Something like soul branding was like kind of eye-opening to me, because I feel like sometimes, you know, Liz and I are communication students, so there's a lot of marketing involved in that. And sometimes marketing can feel sometimes impersonal, right? It just sometimes can feel like there's a lack of a personal and kind connection there. And what Kristina is doing is really changing the game, I think, in that regard, and really emphasizing the importance of marketing and branding that is centered in authenticity and just really grounded in love and in kindness. And I think that is just so beautiful. And her Instagram is incredible. It is so beautiful. And we just love how intentional and how kind it feels. So without further ado, we had a great conversation with Kristina about her journey into the design world that she's in today, and how she remains grounded and centered in love and in her uniqueness and authenticity, and how you can do the same. Kristina, if you would start by just telling us a little bit about yourself. I know icebreakers stink sometimes, but where are you from? What are some things you like to do for fun? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I'm from the Bay Area. I don't know if you guys been in Northern California, but it's I'm like an hour outside of San Francisco. So sunny. Yeah, I've lived here all my life. I love it. I lived in New York for a little bit, so I also love the East Coast. I have some great fondness of the East Coast too. You guys have 4 seasons, which I'm jealous of. But yeah, like I've been a designer all my life. That's what I went to school for. So specifically fashion design and textile design. I've always loved fashion. I think I was such a shy child that like the only way like I felt comfortable expressing myself was not through words and through clothing. So it's like I love every color I would want to, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you guys were shy kids, but I was definitely such a shy, introverted person. So
totally
fun.
Like, really convinced Liz to start a podcast with me. Like, I really had to like.
Really?
Yeah. Know about that. Thank God you did.
Oh, thanks. You're welcome.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes, yeah. Liz has a favorite icebreaker question that she's been asking everybody this season. And it's so silly, but I love it.
So silly. If you were a kitchen appliance or utensil or tool, what would you be?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, Liz, that's amazing. I don't, for some reason what comes to mind, because I'm a baker, and so I love baking, and so I would have to say my electric mixer.
Yes, I love that answer.
Yeah, okay, because it's blue. It's like a beautiful aqua blue, and it takes everything and kind of, you know, it's alchemy, right? You're mixing all the ingredients together. So I kind of like that.
Oh, love it. Wonderful answer.
Great answer.
What would you be today?
I think it was like the little measuring spoons.
This has been Liz's answer for the past episode. Little measuring.
I like little things. So
they all fit in together.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh,
I don't know what
I
I would
love
be
that.
feeling like. A wooden spoon has been my go-to answer. You can use it for anything. Papa, everybody's got a wooden spoon. I like it.
It's a staple. It's a staple.
Exactly. It's just dependable, I love it. I love it so much. All right, getting into some more not serious questions, but more questions geared toward why we're here today. You have a really awesome, I don't know what you would call it, organization or company how do you pronounce? Is it called YOO MEE? Is that how you pronounce it?
YOO MEE.
Oh, I love that. I love it so much. When did you sort of start this, and how did it come to be? There's a lot of awesome stuff we'll get into on your site, but how did that come to being?
Yeah. So YOO MEE, which you said it perfectly, is a design studio. That's where I would kind of label it, because I do take on, like, I do have clients, I contract and do design work through it. But it's a design company that I started, and it was so funny because I started it and my Instagram page at like the lowest point, like 5 years ago, because I had just left my work that I was like in for 10 years. I was in like corporate America at a fashion company for quite a while. Like I basically grew up there, but I had identified with it so heavily that like when I left that job, I was like, who am I? Like, I have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was definitely a huge transition for me. And so I started seeing a life coach. And I don't know if you guys know that terminology, but I mean, it's kind of like therapist
Yeah.
slash like best friend, um, and yes, I feel like everyone should have a freaking life coach at least once in their life.
So,
But it really, yeah, it
mhm.
really did help me, and it made me feel just helped me kind of curate what I wanted to curate in my life, and the things I was passionate about. I wanted to start getting into that again. And so one of the things she said was like, oh, create a love project. That was her term. And it was basically like create something that you just love, has no end result, there's no expectations. And it's just like putting in creatively what you would want to be, put into the world. And it was like so like beautiful at the time, because I was like, oh my God, no expectations, amazing. Like and so I did, and that's what kind of birthed through that is like this design company, which I grounded it in this concept of, coming from the heart and being heart centered. And what does that mean? And then I started curating my IG in the same tone of like, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur who's heart centered, who really is an empath, like I wanted to take the one thing that I've always not been shunned for, but always been told, oh, you're really sensitive. Oh, you're really, emotional, when I was a kid, especially. And I don't know if you guys can relate, but it's almost like I kind of hid it away a little bit.
Definitely.
And yeah, and I just felt like it was this full circle of like, how can I incorporate this like little Kristina, little 10-year-old Kristina of like, what would she want to design? How would she want to design? And so it was definitely integrating a little bit more of who I was in the design space. And I would say that that is kind of how it birthed, and then it just kind of grew. And again, it was like no expectations. So it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do today. Maybe I'll,
Yeah.
And it's just so funny how things magnetize after that,
Yes.
So
Yeah. I love that so much. We have had a lot of conversations about, I love that you mentioned like heart-centered entrepreneur, because I feel like sometimes like business and like, I don't know, like personal, spiritual things, like I feel like sometimes feels like there's a disconnect. And we've talked a lot about that of like, how do we make sure that like, we want to be able to do this with our lives, but how do we make sure that we remain grounded in kindness and in love and in those principles? So absolutely love thunder. That's crazy. I love that you mentioned that. That was awesome. So awesome. It's like, okay. Confirming that was like
that was amazing. Wow.
Oh, that was awesome.
Wow.
Could you tell us a little bit about the Hardest portal? I absolutely love what you do with that. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of another, again, like another iteration of like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to, you know, take this idea and concept and so I thought about like when I was first starting out as a designer, like what would I want to tell myself then, you know? And so that was kind of the work behind the hardest portal is like it's really for people that are creative and creative doesn't necessarily mean like art, right? You could be a writer, you could be a cook, you could be a podcaster, like anything that you put out into the world is this creative energy, right? And so
Yeah.
I do think you know, it has a broad spectrum for sure. And so I hope it does anyways. And that's how it's received. But it was really about, okay, as I was struggling as a designer, so insecure, so looking for things outside of myself, what would I want to say to that person? And so it was basically taking the, you know, the messaging and the designs and then putting them onto a space that people could start to go within a little bit, you know, maybe ask the right questions, maybe have some journal prompts, just the things I had learned through, you know, therapy and my life coaching and all the mentors I kind of had along the way is like, yeah, what were the tools and resources like I would want if I was like that, you know,
I
10
love
years
that.
ago. So,
Yeah.
oh,
I love it so much. So much. I feel like
cool.
Liz and I have been talking a lot about this, but like I feel like we're both kind of in seasons of our lives. We're halfway through college and we're doing a lot of like inner work too of like who am I? Who am I? You know, when I'm not in school, who am I? Who do I want to be? So I love
Yeah.
that portal is so like so grounded in that and getting to know yourself and getting back to yourself
and just having like a safe space to do that exploration.
absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Mm.
You also offer soul branding, which I also love so much. Could you explain what soul branding is and how you use it with your clients?
Yeah, no. So I mean, one of the things, because it's crazy, I went from like fashion to like branding and marketing, and I just it was like you know like that kind of timeline was funny and also just so ironic and like where it went to. But I realized in that span of like designing, like I really love telling stories, and I'm sure you guys
Yeah,
feel that too. Like you love hearing
absolutely.
stories, sharing them, and so yeah, if there was one key aspect of kind of like who I am, storyteller would be a huge archetype of mine. And so soul branding is about archetypes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what archetypes
A
are.
little bit, yeah. Could you explain a little bit for anybody listening that is unfamiliar?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll kind of give you like 101. I mean, we could go like a whole day of like, you know, really
Crash
diving
course.
into it. Yeah. Crash course, archetypes. But archetypes to me, anyways, is how I translate them, is that they're these kind of main story points, energies that we embody. And so and along our lifeline, and they change, right? They evolve. And so Carl Jung was a huge kind of proponent of them and teaching like and he was a very famous psychologist and so his philosophy was that we take on these archetypes and through those archetypes we kind of carry on to this hero's journey and so we transition, you know, how we go from like childhood to adulthood and so it's this beautiful way of kind of to me they felt like I could be multifaceted, like I could
That's so much.
embody. Yeah, like I again, like I feel like there's so much of like, you know, branding out there that's like, well, you got to be in a niche. You got to like find
Yes,
your niche. And I get that. I totally get that. Like who your
absolutely.
audience is, who you want to talk to. But I definitely feel like as creatives and artists, we do evolve. And I think what archetypes gives us is a chance to really be multifaceted, right? And to embody different personas and parts of us that, you know, all make up who we are. And
Yeah,
so, you know, for me, usually what I find with clients is we have usually like 4 to 5 archetypes that we're currently embodying.
love that.
And so what we do is we have a questions, we do a deep dive session. Like there's definitely a lot of work done internally, right? Going internally and saying like, who am I? how do I want to express and how do I want to feel? How do I want to show up as a leader? How do I want to love? How do I want to embody, the message I want to put out into the world? And so we usually find 4 to 5 archetypes. And essentially what I feel like is they make up your entirety, right? Your soul. And so that's why it was called soul branding, because again, it's like everything within, not so much like what's being mimicked out into the world, right? We go inward and kind of, find those. And so like one of my archetypes is actually, what's a really good tool and what I use with my clients. I don't know if you guys know who Kim Kranz is.
The name sounds
But
familiar.
yeah, she's on Instagram. She is actually who got me into like affirmation decks. Like she has a couple decks, and one of them is an archetypes deck, and it's so beautiful because her artwork is like watercolor, and it's just so inspiring, that deck. And so she has all these cards with the different archetypes, people, places, and themes. And so it's a wonderful, like, if you're a visual person, if you like love kind of that mystical, like it's such a good visual like beginner's tool. And so for me, I use that a lot with my clients. And so like one of my archetypes is the crone, which is like this, I mean, how it's been perceived by like our world is like this old woman who's like but really it's about wisdom and being able to share your wisdom. Like that's one of my archetypes that definitely comes through in my Instagram. So again, we find them in the soul branding process and we create kind of the visuals all around what those archetypes are, like everything from the color of font, all of that. And so it's really hopefully grounded in the person and what they want to bring versus like trying to mimic what's already out. So again, just really standing for the uniqueness, the just who you are, and being able to embody all the different parts of you. That's hopefully what I hope this does for people.
Oh, I love that
God,
so much.
I love that.
So the thing you said about being multifaceted is a lesson that we have learned.
Right now.
We're learning that, but have learned throughout. I guess we're never really done learning, but we kind of experienced that. Our first year of college was like, who do we want to be? And the pressure to like fit into one role and to stay in that role through all. And it was like scary because like I don't want to commit to like being having one. I don't know how to describe it, but like
maybe like presenting yourself
in one way. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that. Do you have any advice for someone who, I have definitely felt this way at points in my life of like, I have no idea who I am. Do you have any advice for somebody who may be starting that journey back to themselves and sort of just trying to rediscover themselves and figure out who you truly are inside? Do you have any tips or an advice or anything?
Oh my gosh, so much. Like, well, first of all, like just kudos for you even like getting to that point where you want to delve in, right? Because a lot of that can be scary, and it's just a lot of us facing things sometimes that we don't necessarily want to, or that are like the most like, and so I think for me, I would have to say the one no, there would be a couple. I used curiosity a lot when I first started doing this like journey of going inward. And curiosity just means like following passions, following the signs, following inklings, like just being more open and receptive to the world around you. I think that honestly like helped me find so many passions that I just didn't even know that I loved. Like when I was really down, like an example of that would be when I was really like in this like such a struggling place with my job and I didn't want to be there. We would go on shopping trips, which was like my favorite part. Like we would go travel, right? And so, but even I would have to do like work stuff. But then at the end of the night, I would like go back to a store that I really loved. And most of the time that was like a metaphysical store. And it was like they had crystals, they had tarot, they had all these like amazing things. And I had never heard of anything like that. But I immediately like followed that inkling of like, oh my gosh, this is calling to me. And so again, and it just turned and it inspired so much of my journey that I never would have thought. So following
Yeah.
your curiosity,
Love
following your
that.
passions, I think that's first and foremost. And
Mhm.
then just being super, super kind and giving yourself some forgiveness. A lot of times when we're in that place of finding ourselves, or we find ourselves in a moment where we don't know the answer, we think we have to have it all, right? And so slowing down,
Love that.
being super, super forgiving to yourself, not having to know all the answers, that's okay. I
Yeah.
think making space for those things to be in that space is crucial. And then I would say community, like
Mm.
like what you guys are creating, right? Like people can find this space. Like people are going to be drawn to you because you guys are creating community by this messaging and what you're doing. And so I feel like community is such a huge part of
Yeah.
finding yourself, being able to be around people either that, share some of the values or they're going through the same thing. A big thing that I did when I was on my healing journey was go to retreats. Like I was in that space of being so lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like I find strangers and just connect to people like so deeply, so fast. And it was so
Yeah.
beautiful to me. And it opened me up to experiencing more of that.
I love that. I think that's something you wouldn't immediately think of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go on this journey to find myself and reconnect to myself. I need other people to do it. I can't do it alone. And there are other people out there on that journey too. And we can all learn from each other's journeys. And I love that you mentioned that. That's awesome. I feel like I'm hogging all the questions, but I do have another question.
Go for it.
I love your Instagram, and I love how it feels like just like so calming. Like I look at it and I feel so calm and so relaxed and so inspired. I have been struggling a little bit lately with my relationship with social media. We use it as a tool to convey our message of kindness, and it's how we're reaching people and how we're creating that space. But sometimes I find myself scrolling for hours mindlessly, and then I feel terrible afterwards. Is there anything that you do in your personal life with your social media? Is there any practices or like rituals that you put into place to kind of make sure that you're maintaining sort of a healthy relationship with Instagram or TikTok, because that's a journey
Yes.
I'm
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Maddie. Yes, I'm on this journey with my son right now. So this is a great question.
Okay, good.
Oh, because you also have to embody it too, right? Like I'm a mother now, so I'm like I have to embody what I'm telling my son. And my son's, he's not on the apps yet, but he's definitely like hooked to his phone a little bit. And so, okay, so for me, number one, detoxes are super, super healthy. So I would first and foremost put that out there. If you feel, because you know yourself, right? You know if looking at things is inspiring you or is it just consumption, right?
Yes.
So ask yourself those two things. Do I
Yeah.
feel inspired by what I'm looking at, or is this just me consuming and maybe wanting, right? And I ask myself that all the time. And so when I know I'm coming to that point of like, oh, it's causing me more anxiety than it is like happiness and joy,
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, I need a detox. And even
Yeah.
like a week, half a week, just getting yourself that permission. And another thing that's really good is just nighttime, right? Like no nighttime, like, just again, to get yourself that rest, right? Like I find if I'm on social media at night, I really can't have a good night's sleep. So it might be different for people.
Yeah.
I think those two things. And then like curation, like curating your feed. I think I never really go onto the Explorer page of things, but I do curate who comes up on my feed. And I feel like that has helped a ton. But yeah, I do think social media detoxes, and I think it's actually a norm now. Like I see so many of the people I follow saying, down for spiritual maintenance or
Yes.
like,
Oh, I love that. Spiritual maintenance. Love that phrase. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good, right?
Eat it.
So I
Yeah.
think giving yourself that time and that breakaway is so healthy. And like for me and my son, it's also taking breaks during the day. Like the one thing I said to him is like, put down your phone, go outside, go into nature.
Love
Like
that.
that's definitely a huge like more green, less green, so nature
Oh,
is
love
definitely a
that.
huge one for me.
Yeah. More green, less green. I need that like everywhere I look. Yeah. On a t-shirt, on my
Too.
mirror. Like,
Me
oh
too.
gosh, I love that so much. One question that we have been asking everyone this season, and I love that we have been asking it because everybody's answers are so different and so beautiful. What does kindness mean to you?
Oh, I love that. Oh, kindness. I mean, kindness means to me, I would have to say kindness is more of a feeling for me. Like I feel kindness in my heart.
Yeah,
Like if I see like a video that like I don't know, like an animal is being rescued. There's a real, there's something like I feel a tug. I
yeah,
definitely feel like an
yeah.
emotional feeling in my heart. And so I definitely say kindness is a feeling to me and feeling of just centered in love. Like that's really what kindness is to me, just being centered in love
I love that.
and
Yeah.
responding from that place, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, that feeling or that action afterward.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Amazing.
that's awesome. Christina, this was
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
Thank you so much for chatting with us
Thank
today.
you so
Is there
much.
anything else that you would want to leave our listeners with? Any message you want to put out there? Anything you would want to
Oh,
leave with them?
I, yeah, like, I mean, if anything, like, I just want people to believe that they're co-creators in their life and that,
Oh, that.
um, I think that was a huge part for me too, like doing again, like on this, like, it's still on this path, right? Like it's always evolving.
Yeah,
But the more that I can see that I'm a co-creator in my life and the more that I am less resistant to change, those
mm,
are probably the biggest lessons I've learned like to date,
yeah,
is just, not fearing the change, being and again, you can fear it because that's totally such a human response, but
yes,
being able to recognize it, but also being able to say I'm okay at the same time and
love
and
that.
just really honoring yourself as a co-creator and knowing that you have the ability to co-create with life, co-create with your community, co-create with your partners and your relationships. And so that's always been a huge grounding force in me realizing like my inherent worth, my
Yeah,
ability to show up
yeah,
and be a much more kinder person in the world too, you know?
totally.
So yeah, those would be my two messages.
I love it.
Oh,
So beautiful. I
beautiful.
love the co-creating. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
heard that before, but I love that. Makes me think of just like really taking an active role in your life. That's something I've
Yeah.
been thinking about too, is lately, is like really making sure that you're living you know what I mean? You're very present in your life and things aren't just happening to you, but you are actually, making sure you're taking care of yourself
Yeah.
and taking care of the people around you and that sort of thing. So absolutely love
Yes.
that.
And
I get
words
it all.
matter. Words matter. The words you say
Yes.
to yourself and your thoughts, they do. So mantras is a
Absolutely.
great practice.
Love that. Yeah.
There's so many beautiful mantras out right now that,
Yeah.
again, like the words we say, what we think. So, and what we consume, Maddie, what
Yeah.
you were talking about, social
Totally.
media. Like, yeah,
Totally. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love mantras.
Mm.
I've been trying to work with mantras
Yeah.
lately, have helped a lot. It's just,
Yeah.
I feel like Liz and I are both kind of anxious people sometimes. So, but positive
Yeah.
affirmations
same.
have
Well,
so
they
much.
do
And it
help.
feels silly in the moment of like, I'm okay, I'm strong, I'm brave. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
feels silly in the moment sometimes,
Yeah,
but they really do help. They really just like,
yeah.
reframe that way of thinking. So, yeah, that's
Reframe,
awesome.
exactly.
This was
I
awesome.
wish I took notes. I'm gonna have to go back and listen.
Re-listen to this episode and
Yeah.
write it down. Yeah.
Oh.
Transcribe and like
Where
look
to
at these
live
notes
from.
every
Yeah.
day. This was
Oh my
awesome,
gosh.
Thank you
Christina.
for having me, you guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, this was
Coming
awesome.
on.
You were
Yes,
wonderful.
yes.
How can people support you and the work you do and work with you and all that good stuff?
Well, find me on IG. I feel like IG is probably the biggest space that I do create on. And so it's you, me, YOOMEE healing. And that's my IG handle. And then all my offerings are on my bio. So the biggest one I have is the hardest portal, which I pour everything into. I'm pouring everything into right now just because it's evolving so much. And if they use the word hardest, which is heart and artist kind of combined, so HEARTIST, use
Perfect.
that code and you get the entire year of the artist portal for free because it's subscription based. But yeah, if they use that code. So if you guys want to check it out, and you guys can like end the membership anytime, there's no like no contract or anything like that. But it has everything I've ever created on there. And I think it's such a great resource if you're looking to, again, like start going on that inner journey and just the relationship with self. So yeah, tools on there.
Sweet.
Amazing.
Awesome. Love that so much. Kristina, thank you so much. This is awesome. We're
You
going to
guys
link.
are awesome what you're doing.
Oh, you're awesome too. Getting to connect with people like you
Oh
is
my
like
gosh,
the
the
best
best.
part of this
The best.
ever. Like this, yeah. To check out Kristina's work and to work with her, visit YOOMeeDesign.com and follow her on Instagram at YOOMeeHealing.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode.
For more kindness content, check out our Instagram at Courageously Kind Podcast.
And if you liked this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts and feel free to share this show with your friends.
Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Animals Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Anna Waltz is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit animallandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.